Have you ever felt like you're too sensitive, too soft, too easy to push around, too emotional? Have you ever shut down your emotions or pushed them down in an attempt to stay safe in the world? I know that I have. Emotions play a very important part in our lives, and I didn't think so a couple years ago, or a few years ago, I guess. I really had to learn how to honor my emotions. I found that when I was younger, I really pushed them down. I pushed them down because I hated being vulnerable and I hated being hurt. I didn't want them to see anything that was easy for them to manipulate or to toy with me. I just kind of wanted to keep things very rational, very cool and collected, and very logical. But emotions aren't logical, so I found it very difficult to accept my emotions. If I was going through something, I would kind of shove it down and hope that it would go away. I did this for a long time, and then I found myself stuck in rumination, as some of my previous videos have kind of gone into there. With rumination, I found myself reliving the same emotions, the same mental states, essentially. I wasn't ever letting things go properly. I would relive the same scenarios, essentially just torturing myself. When I learned to really respect my emotions and allow myself to heal, to look into my emotions and to just allow myself to sit with the feelings, I found myself healing and letting things go properly. But I think that it can be hard to find that balance, because when and where should you be vulnerable, and when and where should you choose not to be vulnerable? There are certain scenarios in which it's best to protect yourself, or to keep up a wall or put up a wall, to not allow people to manipulate or hurt you. I'm sure that we've all experienced some sort of form of this. Where you put yourself out into the world and you might get hurt, or maybe a friend hurts you, or somebody very close to you hurts you, and then you might choose to close yourself away and not be vulnerable. That's kind of what happened to me. I didn't respect emotions for that reason, and I didn't really see much of a place for them in my life if it was going to allow me to be hurt. I think when we're younger, we might be told to close our emotions off or to shove it down a little bit more so, just so we aren't so out there and so out in the world. The people around us obviously don't want us to get hurt. I think that now that I'm a mother, I can see where the people in my life were coming from when they told me to shut that side off. Being a highly sensitive person, you might feel very vulnerable to the world around you. You might pick up on things, pick up on emotions. Back in my customer service days, I had a lady come in and she was very, very aggressive with me. She essentially came in and demanded that things be done her way. And when she approached me like that, being that I pick up on emotions of those around me, and it really, really made me panic. And I started shaking so bad that I couldn't shut it off. It left me feeling quite out of control in that situation. I felt like somebody had just come in and like completely wrecked my day, and now I was so emotional and such a wreck that I couldn't continue on with my day. I think that my emotions, a lot of them were a scenario like that at times. So that's a lot of the reason why I liked to push it down and try to stick to more logical sides. And I didn't really like it when people came at me like that. I still don't like it when people are that aggressive and forthcoming. I just don't feel like there's a place for it. I think that most things can be solved with rational conversation. So I still don't appreciate it, and I still don't respect that. But I think that the reason why it was very hard for me to accept my emotions is because it made me feel very out of control and very helpless at times. But I think that in choosing not to express my emotions with people, that was one thing, but then I wouldn't even accept emotions myself, which was a serious problem because I wouldn't allow myself to actually work through emotions. I wouldn't sit with an emotion. I wouldn't allow myself to feel how I was feeling. I think that self-compassion is very important because it allows you to authentically accept yourself and accept what you're going through, your emotions, and not try to rationalize it so much. Emotions are rarely ever rational, and that's one thing that I struggled with. I always expected that they should go hand in hand, and they don't. When I started guided meditation and working through my emotions and allowing myself to feel what it is that I was feeling, I found that miraculously I was able to work through things, and I wasn't constantly reliving the same scenario mentally and emotionally, and that was quite freeing. And I think that being in adulthood, I have come to realize that there are times when you can be vulnerable and you can be out there with people and you can be yourself and you can be authentic and you can embrace your emotional side. And it can really add a lot more strength and a lot more connection to your relationships. It is really a strength. And I see that now. There's a time and a place when it's okay to be out there with your emotions and to let it out and to be authentically you, to feel what it is that you're feeling and be okay with it. And there's a time when maybe you should hide it. If you're being emotionally manipulated, it might be best to choose to keep that aspect hidden. But where do I feel safe in allowing that to come out and to have really strong emotional bonds and connections with people? And where do I choose to maybe not do that, to not put that out there? It wasn't so much that the entire world was unsafe for me emotionally. It's just a finding out who you are and who do you connect with and where can you put yourself out into the world. Now I can fully embrace my emotions and embrace who I am, and that took quite a bit. I'm sure that if somebody came in and was screaming and yelling at me, I would probably start shaking like mad again, but I don't feel bad about that anymore, and I don't feel like that's a defect on my behalf. I think that I can honor the fact that I might be a sensitive person at times. I might be a highly sensitive person, and I might need a lot of time to recharge and to look after myself. And if I'm in large group settings for an extended period of time, I pick up on the emotions of those around me and I get really drained, and I need time alone to recharge and maybe go out for a walk in nature. I go for a walk every day with my dog Penny. She's a lab and she needs lots of exercise anyway, and I find that it's kind of a win-win for both her and me. Kind of get your blood pumping and it feels really good to get outside. There's certain things you can do to recharge emotionally. You don't have to stay stuck in any sort of mental state. You can really put yourself out there and find what's really therapeutic to you. That was another thing, is just finding what works for you and for recharging. I think that we can learn to honor the fact that we might be sensitive people and we might have emotions. It's a beautiful thing to be human and to connect with others and to allow space for our emotions. They are valuable. They tell us more about who we are and what maybe hurts and what maybe we can choose to protect ourselves from. In a holistic way, we can still allow ourselves to be out there and open and honest and be brave and emotionally connected. We don't have to shut that aspect off. There's so much value in our emotions. There's so much connection available there. So I'm curious, have you ever felt like you need to push your emotions down? Have you ever felt like they interfered with your life? And what did you do to work on allowing that balance for yourself? How do you allow and appreciate your emotions?